I know it's hard to watch, but most women who date men have to learn the hard way. I wish it wasn't that way, but we do. Especially if we have like chronic codependency, childhood trauma we haven't dealt with yet, a narcissistic parent, an addict parent, we're schmegally abused or abused, whatever. Like, most of us have to learn the hard way. But the hard way doesn't have to be as hard or as lethal or dangerous or financially devastating if we have some education. So I want to go into the video about the woman that this comment's attached to that's linked. I know that she's doubling down. I know that she's like, I don't mind doing all this stuff. I don't mind building, like literally redesigning, or not redesigning, God, what's that word? Like painting, like gutting this whole thing. Basically almost like building a house that already has a frame is what it looks like. I know she says that she doesn't mind doing it. She would do that for a friend. No, you would not. You would not do that much for a friend. I promise you. And that even if if he breaks up for the tomorrow, and that she'd be fine with it. That's what she thinks. And she may be fine with it for a while. But when she is in her late 30s, late 40s, or on, and looks back at how much money she lost from pouring her labor and sweat and tears into this man and his house that she has no rights to. Nothing, no stakes in it whatsoever. She will mind then. She will, because she could have been building her own home. She could have been building her own life. And she will be pissed. So many of us are pissed at how much I'm so in debt because of bad decisions, mostly around men. Almost all of them. And I don't even say decisions. Ignorance, not knowing how dangerous this was, not knowing how much therapy was going to cost to survive, to almost getting unalived and getting raped and being stalked and all of those things. I didn't know what a price I would pay for just, when I said, fork it, whatever, what's the worst that could happen, when I started dating that dude that I knew was like not good for me, but I was like, whatever, it's just a hookup, we're just having fun, I'm only here for what famous last words. And that's why when women come into my comments, and I know where this comes from, it comes from a place of wanting to feel safe, wanting to feel like you could never fall for this. That would never happen to me. Why do these women do this? That would never happen to me. Da, 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 da. You're in danger if you think that you could never fall for this. Now, if you don't have a lot of trauma from your childhood, if you didn't grow up with a narcissistic dad or abusive parent or something like that, chances are you are less likely to fall for this because you know what a healthy man looks like. If you had a good relationship with your father, you know what that looks like. And hopefully he taught you what to look for, what to expect, how to have a high standard. But so many women don't know that. And even still, some of my mutuals, one of my mutuals had an amazing father, and that actually set her up to fall for all kinds of crap because she had no idea she didn't know how much men lie, how much they steal, how they're soul diggers and gold diggers and literally just hobos and exploits our labor at every chance. She had no idea. I'm going to tag her. And so on some level, having a healthy dad kind of made her vulnerable to all these tricks because she had no idea how evil men can be. So there's actually very few women, I believe, out there who could just never fall for a man exploiting you. I believe most women who date men have to learn the hard way, unfortunately. But here's where the hope comes in, okay? First of all, the more educated we are, the sooner we're going to see those red flags, and therefore the sooner we will leave, or the less likely we will ignore those red flags, because a lot of us didn't even know these are red flags. That woman with the house, she clearly was like, hasn't thought about it, or if she has, she maybe dismissed herself or gaslit herself because every single message she's gotten from every single movie and TV show and book and magazine and all of them, even everything since she was born, was like, you're here to serve men, pour into men, love men. They need you. Don't you love a man? You need a man, right? None of that set us up to be like, these men are going to humble you. They're going to destroy you financially. They're going to ruin your body. They might unalive you and they're going to leave you anyway. Like, nobody warns us. Some of our grandmothers tried to, but we didn't listen. And some women did warn us, but we just assumed they were bitter. So when we learn through experiential learning, which I'm sorry, I used to be a teacher in the outdoors. Most children learn, I don't know, I'm not a teacher anymore, so I'm sure there's like so much more research has been done on learning techniques. But in my personal experience as a teacher and as a student, when I was trying to learn how to ski, when I was trying to learn how all these things that I'd never done before, experiential learner, that is when I learned. Not through someone telling me, like all that stuff. But, and this is why I make my content, is once you hear something and are warned enough, you can't unsee it. You can't unhear it. That we are planting seeds here. So I actually believe that that woman may actually wake up. She may leave that man, or she'll get screwed, and this will be hopefully the one time she has to learn that lesson. Now she may lose years of income and investment and money and all this stuff. I mean, she should not be paying rent at all. She should be being paid for that labor, because I don't care what her rent is. None of that is as valuable as all that time, right? But imagine putting something out there in like a little passive aggressive video being like, imagine, like the video was very clear that she kind of felt it was messed up, or she would not have said that. Moving in with her boyfriend, right? Like, part of her knows it seems unfair. And then all these, and if you've never created content before and don't know what it's like to go viral, I do not blame her for turning the comments off. I'm actually surprised she left the video up. Having hundreds or thousands of people tell you that you are being exploited, and a lot of times that messaging comes across as so shaming, so degrading, especially for women who are like, I would never do that. What's wrong with you? Pick better. You're using the language of men, y'all, right? Like, there's a way to like tell this woman she's being exploited without being mean, but because it's the internet and no one knows each other, usually we just are brutally honest to a fault sometimes. So the fact, like, believe me, she may not want to believe that stuff, but she can't unsee it. The seeds are planted, and it may take 6 months. It may take 6 years. Hopefully not, for her to realize that she's with a dude who doesn't value her. And that when she sees his new fiance or wife move into the house that she literally did all of that free labor for, got nothing in return for it, decorated it, like gave the woman's touch to it, as someone said in my comments on YouTube. I was like, it's my favorite comment. Like literally nested for a new wife to come. That is when she may learn. And it sucks, but she may start thinking about what we said. And this is what is so powerful about the truth, and why like divorced women, survivors of DV, survivors of like rape, survivors of like of hobosexuals and gold digging men, like any woman who has been completely exploited on any level or abused or whatever by men, our stories, they may not like them. And they may not want to hear them, but they can't unhear them. And they may start making the parallel. And the seeds, once they're planted, they can't be unplanted. They may not be watered much. They may be kind of like hang out for a long time, like locusts for 17 years. They're there, though. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because when I was with that dude, I intuitively knew, like I was probably in a different position. This woman has been with this guy for 8 years, but she was 20 when they started dating. Like it makes no sense for her to get married when she's 20, in my opinion, right? I understand why they're not married yet. Maybe she's not ready for marriage. This is the thing. Women, we need to financially and legally secure ourselves. So I'm not saying she needs to get married. She may not want to get married, but I want women to start seeing this as a business. It's a business with these men. It's a business, whether you're married or not. And that's why, if I didn't believe in marriage, I wouldn't be married. But you will never convince me that marriage is not a scam in general. But you will also never convince me that cohabitating with men for a long period of time isn't also a scam. Like, sorry, but at least married women could possibly have a prenup and postnup and all kinds of stuff securing their future financially, because the women who are with men who are not married to these men and have no agreement, they get nothing. Nothing. Women who are living with men and they're not married to these men and have no legal agreement get forked. I know so many women who are like, that's why they said, I will never live with a man again unless we're married. I will never move in unless I have a ring on that finger. Never again, because they lost everything. They got no return on their investment. Because they're women under patriarchy, I don't care how 50-50 it was, she did more. She did more. There's no way she didn't do more. And she probably wasn't even getting an O for all that she was doing, because so few men care about this, right? They like getting this, but they don't like pleasing this. So I want women to start making financial agreements. If you start sharing investments, if you share a car, if you share a home, if you like whatever you're doing, if you are sharing a life with a man that is worth, draw up papers, get it in writing, because these men will screw you. You need that for your own peace of mind, because that's how a lot of women will stay in these relationships, because they have nothing in paper and they're like, well, I've already spent 8 years with this man. I built this house. They're not going to walk away every time they have a doubt, because they've already spent. The more you invest, the more you have to lose. But if you get some sort of protection, then you can walk away when you know you should, rather than because you don't want to lose all of that time, labor, blood, sweat, and tears. Well, hopefully not blood. Look at that baby. But the reason why I'm hopeful is because I know what it's like to be in a situation that I know I should get out of, but I wasn't ready to. And this was abusive, so it's even like a little different. You know, the stakes are way higher. I know what it's like to know I should leave, and just kind of waiting for my tolerance for pain to hit its max, right? Especially once other people know what's going on, right? Like a lot of times once you start telling people it's not the best, like she did on the internet in front of I don't know how many millions of people, now you're going to go into hiding, right? You're going to start, but you can't unsee it. And the more you hide things from people, the more it doesn't sit right with you. Let me give you an example. When I was in that abusive relationship, after the first physically violent, seriously violent situation, my landlord is the one who stepped in and intervened, because I screamed and she heard and she came outside, and I basically was like, I don't feel safe. And then she, had her boyfriend drive him away. And I had my friend come and get all the stuff. I didn't want him to. My friend was like, get his stuff out. I was like, yeah, but where will he go? He's a hobo. He was like, I'll pay for his storage unit. We are getting this stuff out of here. That's one of the only times a man has actually stepped in and helped me. Every other situation is always women. Women are going to save me. Never men. Don't count on men to do this. But the problem was, once my landlord knew, this friend knew, and my boss knew, who I was also friends with, and we were coworkers. Once those 3 people knew, I was screwed. I was screwed in a good way, right? I kept keeping more secrets. I kept hiding, but the more I had to hide, the more I couldn't talk about it, because I also knew it was like exhausting people for me to just talk about this. The more I had to I literally would drive through town and make him sit like this, because I didn't want it's a small town. Taos is a very small town. It's like 7,000 people within the town, and then more, and on the outskirts. But it's a very small town. You cannot get away with anything in that town without everybody knowing. So when we drove through town, I didn't want people to know that I was still hanging out with him, that he's still living with me. So I was like, duck. So you'd have to sit like this, going through town. When he came over, because I didn't want my landlord to know I was back with him, I made him army crawl through the sagebush in the backyard. I was like, okay, I think she's here, but you wait either till it's dark, and he had to tiptoe around, or if it wasn't dark, I was like, go through this, the efforts I had to do to cover up being with a man I knew I shouldn't be, the more, and I couldn't tell my friend Liz, because she was starting to get worried. So I started lying. Sitting with hiding is the sign of an addiction. That to ask any addict when they start hiding alcohol or drugs or whatever, when they're hiding things, It's because they know that it's not in their best interest. It's not what their higher self, future self would want for them. And their friends are going to bear witness to that, so they hide. But hiding and not telling people, it doesn't sit right with you after a while. So I actually believe that we did a good job. Our delivery, we can work on. We really need to work on our delivery, because when we come at women violently, being like, you stupid, what's wrong with you? I would never. Yeah, do you really think that helps? Do you think that helps? I understand that impulse to do that, especially if you are not somebody who falls for men's lies so easily, because you have never had a role model of a man that's anything other than a lying narcissist, abuser, or whatever. You literally don't even know what an honest man looks like. Of course, that person, it's like we have targets on our heads, right? But they could get any of us. Any of us. Some of us are a little bit more gullible than others. And some of us, when we feel at home around somebody, it's because that person's dangerous and we're used to feeling nervous and butterflies, right? If your heart and your body goes around a man, it's probably not good. Like Jessica on Love is Blind. Electric butterflies. Run, Jimmy. Jimmy's not good. Chelsea literally kept saying, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Why do you think that is? Your body's like, and she's like, it's love. Mm-mm. And so it takes, some of us have a much, the steeper learning curves than others. And if that's not you, and you have never been in that situation, good for you. You're so lucky. But please don't think that you're better than other women, because you haven't. And even if you think that, keep it to yourself. Because shaming a woman who's putting up with crap from a man, shaming her. Honesty is literally what I believe. Storytelling, honesty, helping those women come to that truth on their own through storytelling, through educational. That is what I believe works in my own experience as a survivor who's helped other survivors. But like, I could never, why do women do this? La 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 la. Like, good for you that you haven't, that you never had that role model that normalized predators. Like, and also, as someone who used to be the I could never, that came from a place of, well, I hadn't yet. And I thought these women were dumb and gullible, and I would never do that. I'm a climber. I'm an outdoor adventure leader. I keep people alive in the wilderness. No man would ever pull that over on me. Oh, really? Oh, really? Because actually, they go for strong, independent women more than anybody, because they know we're not used to depending on men. They know we're fiercely independent and that we won't expect anything from them. Why do you think so many like strong, independent women who are like who can do everything for themselves? Why do you think they end up with hobos who financially abuse them? They don't need these men. We don't need men. We know that. And so we're like, well, it's nice to have someone around, blah, blah, blah. And because we think we're so strong, then we have false, that's the word. We're a little too arrogant. We're a little too cocky. Confidence is good. Cockiness, bad. Cockiness is not, because there's no humility in cockiness. Confidence, great. That's what we want. Confident, and also being humble enough to know that there's a lot we don't know, right? That we haven't learned yet. So I don't know. I beg of people to look at addiction, at relationships. A lot of women in relationships, a lot of times this is our addiction, right? Well, I mean, we know not to shame the alcoholic by now, right? Like, that's normalized. You know, we know that we're not supposed to shame them, that there's something different about those people, that 10% of society. But we don't talk that way or towards women who are addicted to these men. We're like, God, what an idiot. So let's start treating women who are in these relationships who will not leave men as either A, they just don't know enough yet. They're gullible. They don't have experiential learning yet. It's a trauma response happening. Or it's limerence or addiction instead of I would never. That's not helping.